Thank you, Peter. Hello, everyone. Can I just have a show of hands? Who actually was born in London? Well, that's good to know. It's a great honor to be with you today, particularly in this building, the Polish Cultural and Social Center, because I first visited here when I was around 5 years of age, and it's one of my earliest memories, because on the floor below, I was tasked with giving flowers to a dancer on stage, and it's sort of cemented in my mind, and I haven't been back here all that many times since, but my aunt was a volunteer librarian here for many years, so I've got a lot of sentiment attached here, so it's lovely that NCF Locals, funnily enough, landed on this building for today's conference on Can London Be Saved? A Yorkshireman will tell you that he is first and foremost Yorkshire, and I suppose I might say just the same thing about London, because like Peter, I'm a Londoner born and bred, and I live and breathe this city. I wasn't born within the sound of Bow Bells, but I was born literally 10 minutes walk from this building at the old Queen Charlotte's Hospital on Goldhawk Road. And in 2014, I published a book called A London Peculiar, and it was my love letter to this city. And when I was born, slightly later than Peter, London was approximately 90% white British. And as Peter has told you, in 2021, that had declined to 37%. Today, I would imagine it's probably below a third. And no other major city in modern history anywhere in the globe has seen the indigenous population decline so rapidly in the space of one generation. And amazingly, 41% of the people living in this city were not born in the UK. Now just let that sink in terms of the wider consequences. In 1944, the Polish jurist Rafe Lemkin coined the term cultural genocide. And cultural genocide refers to the deliberate and systematic destruction of the culture, the values, the identity, and the way of life of a group or a nation. And I'll leave it to you to decide whether what has happened to London and to Londoners meets that threshold. Now, are Londoners a distinct group or a nation? Well, I will say this: traditional Londoners are as distinct a group of people as the Scots, the Welsh, Yorkshiremen, the Cornish, people from the Black Country. London is 2,000 years old, and its densely packed population is equal to that of Scotland and Wales combined. It's a city-state, a nation in all but name. That's why it has historic privileges, why the monarch pays tributes to London when they arrive into the city. And that's why, alone among the cities and regions, it was London that achieved devolution alongside Scotland and Wales. And a place as large and as old and as densely populated as London does indeed develop its own unique characteristics, its culture, its identity, its own cuisine it has its own fashions, at least it used to, its own dialect, even its own language in the form of Cockney rhyming slang. And I remember, and I'm sure many of you can remember, when you used to be able to tell where in London somebody was from just by their accent, sometimes even by their clothes. With older folk, you still can to a degree, but that's fast fading. And yes, let's spare a thought for the Cockneys. I've often said that if the Cockneys were a rural tribe in the middle of the Amazonian jungle, the United Nations would have sent out a special force to preserve and protect them. But no one cares about the urban tribes in the concrete jungle of today. And after some 400 years calling this city home, the Cockneys have been all but eradicated from London, displaced and replaced. And your best bet of finding one of the last true Londoners is by hailing a black cab, because cabbies are, I would say, the last true Londoners, both by birth and by spirit. And this transformation of London hasn't just been at the hands of low-skilled migrants, and we focus enough on that already, obviously, the sort of people you would find in Brent or in Tower Hamlets. But London is being threatened in a pincer movement from both top and bottom. For London is now also equally a transient city for the anywheres, The globalist metropolitan elites, the bankers, the lawyers, the management consultants, who have no attachment to place and can live just as happily in Dubai or New York or Singapore as they do in London. Wherever they lay their hat is their home. And whether they're in Europe or North America or Asia, they live and work in the same sterile boxes of chrome and steel, those international high-rise pieces of architecture divorced from the vernacular, bland and homogeneous, and with no connection to the ground from which they have sprung. It could be Chicago, or it could be Canary Wharf, we don't know. They spend their days in the city, the ancient historic square mile of the City of London, and there we have the flag of the square mile, nicely bordered with the Middlesex flag. But if you ask them, if you ask any recent immigrant to name a church by Christopher Wren, and you'll receive a blank stare. The Great Fire of London, Pudding Lane, the Blitz, Dr. Johnson's house, those terms mean nothing. They fall on stony ground. And when a city loses its collective memory, its identity fades away. The character of a city is defined by that shared pool of knowledge, of memories, of information that its inhabitants collectively hold and share. And for those of us who grew up in this city, London is increasingly a city of shadows, silhouettes that only some of us can still identify. London once had its own anthem. Maybe it's because I'm a Londoner, a song that was heard so frequently when I was growing up, even though it was already by that point very old. It was our answer to New York, New York. But when did you last hear that song played? Now, all cities change, and we must be careful, of course, not to let nostalgia influence our attitudes towards the world around us. But I think we'd agree that nostalgia is not why we lament the sudden and dramatic and unprecedented changes wrought on London. For even the young, our young, know and appreciate that they have lost something without knowing quite what it is. But to lament what we have lost is not to say that this great city is lost. The question posed is, can London be saved? I would venture to say that perhaps our London cannot be saved, but that's very different from whether London can be saved. Now, I'm not known for my positivity usually in my speeches, something of a doomsayer, but we're going to have a whole day ahead of focusing on the trials and tribulations of this city. So I wanted to be a bit positive at least about this city. Now, I'm not sure how convincing I'm going to be towards this particular audience about the great merits that this city still holds, but do let me try at least without touching as I tell you why I think London is now still, despite all that has befallen it, even now London still remains the greatest city in the world. Because it does take a lot to knock this city down. And as a teenager, I used to listen every night to the speeches of Sir Winston Churchill to fall asleep. I was an odd child, I will admit that. And one of my favourite speeches was delivered during the Blitz to the London County Council, and it honoured the people of London. And in it, Churchill referenced the resilience of London in the face of relentless bombing. And he said, London can take it. London is so vast and so strong, it is like a prehistoric monster into whose armoured hide showers of arrows may be shot in vain. This city has endured so much: the plague, the Great Fire, the Blitz, industrial decline, and every time this city has been knocked down, it has recovered and emerged as strong as ever. The challenge it faces today is greater than all of that, because demographic change for many of us may seem like final change and irrevocable change, but not necessarily. With the right government and the right policies, change can happen. People told Lee Kuan Yew he was mad when he thought he could create in Singapore the sort of culture and society we have here in Britain. At the end of the Second World War, Singapore was an economic backwater, completely undeveloped. And when he came to London, he saw a collection of newspapers being sold in Trafalgar Square, just using an honesty box. People arrived, left money in that box, sometimes taking change out, and they took a paper. No one stole a paper, no one stole any money. He said, I want to create that society in Singapore, and by golly, he did. If he could do it there, change still can happen here. Let's make Britain like Singapore again, I suppose. And I hope some of the speeches today will continue that theme about how this city can recover again and continue to flourish, not being necessarily the city that we all remembered and loved, but being a new city for a new generation. Because for all its ills, including obviously the cost of living and the cost of housing and all the other ills you're all familiar with, London does still remain a terrific place to live, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. There are so many who denigrate and defame this great city, often without ever having visited, who believe that you'll be mugged the moment you leave the front door, who believe you'll be assaulted if you go onto the tube, who believe it's a third world city. Well, for those of us, or for many of us who live and breathe here, that simply isn't our reality. And whilst there are obviously areas we don't want to visit, this city is so vast that you can live your entire life without ever encountering them. And so let me conclude on some positivity. There's a reason that London receives more tourism than any other city in the Western world, that it is the most Instagram city in the world, holding the top spot for consecutive years. With over 160 million Instagram posts, it outstrips Paris, Rome, New York, Venice, Florence. London remains a city bursting with historical bounty and filled with the fruits of human endeavor. It's still a city in which every step you take passes through the shadows of those who came before. But how can I say London is the greatest city in the world? Well, it remains one of the two great world centers. There are only two cities in the world which are accorded the Alpha++ status. Those are London and New York, the two global capitals, the dominant, most influential and most powerful cities in business, finance, commerce, culture, creativity, and innovation. And London has retained that status despite the calamity of the past 20 years. And all 6 of the most respected world city power rankings place London and New York in either first or second place. And that's based on their livability, their lovability, their prosperity, their culture, and their economic influence. And they are head and shoulders over Paris or Tokyo or Singapore. Now, that's very different to the daily lives, of course, that we all enjoy in terms of standards of living. London is expensive, there's great wealth inequality here, unaffordable housing. But in many respects, was it not ever thus? If you do want a peaceful existence, a stress-free life, a higher material quality of life, then Melbourne, Vancouver, Vienna, Calgary, Sydney, those cities rank at top. But those cities have none of the energy and the dynamism or the culture of London, the things that actually attracted people from Sydney and from Vancouver to actually move to London. London has so many great assets which continue to flourish despite everything of the last 20 years. London has more educational institutions than any other city in the world. London has the highest concentration of top-ranked universities globally: Imperial College, UCL, LSE, King's College, the list goes on. London is widely considered to be the best city in the world for students. It's held that top spot for 6 consecutive years. It's the best city when measured by human capital. That refers to the collective knowledge and the skills of a population. We have the most skilled workforce in the world and the best educated workforce in the world, with nearly 60% of residents holding at least one bachelor's degree. Hopefully not in gender studies or something like that. London still ranks in the top 5 cities in the world for innovation and creativity, the 2 most important forces for driving the prosperity and future of a city. London is the greenest city in Europe and the world's 2nd greenest city, with almost 3,000 parks and over 150 million square feet of parkland. 47% of Greater London is classed as green. And our parks are some of the world's most beautiful, and we have the Victorians to thank for that. Most of London's public parks were created to preserve the natural environment during the process of great industrialization and urban sprawl, to ensure that wherever you live in London, you're never more than a short walk from a park or a square, and that's something very unique to this city. And together with the royal parks and the squares of London, these are the great lungs of London. And of course we know the variety from your small local park to the grandeur of Hyde Park, to the hilly majesty of Hampstead Hill, to the riverside glories of Richmond. London also has 6 airports, making it the world's most internationally connected city. And you may moan about travelling on the tube and on the bus, but we forget how lucky we are, because London consistently ranks in the top 10 cities in the world for its comprehensive transport network, its connectivity, and yes, hard as it is to believe, its reliability. Now, we are the New Culture Forum, and it must be said that culturally no other city can match London either. From classical to pop, London is the world's best city for music. We have more concerts here than any other city on the planet. We have more stadiums here than any other city on the planet. No surprise then that London is also the world's leading host of sporting events. We had 50 international events just last year alone. In terms of theatre, New York and London wear the crown with around 230 theatres each. Paris comes next with only 150. London's West End had more than 5 million people more than went to Broadway in New York last year. We have the most museums in the world in this city, over 200, and 3 of the top 10 museums in the world are based here. 6 of the top 20 museums in the world are based here, including, of course, the world's oldest national public museum, the British Museum. Obviously, you'll be very familiar with our great shopping offerings. We have more department stores than anywhere else in the world. But I assume you all know London also is the birthplace of the suit and gentleman's tailoring. And many of the world's oldest shops are here. So if you walk from the centre of tailoring in Savile Row, within 20 minutes walk from Savile Row down to St James's, you'll pass the world's first shopping arcade, the world's oldest hat shop, the world's oldest barber, the world's oldest cheesemonger, the world's oldest wine merchant, the world's oldest tobacconist and cigar shop, Britain's oldest bootmaker, and Britain's oldest perfumier. London also ranks 4 for restaurants and the variety of restaurants. So if you add all of that together, along with all the boring financial and commercial stuff, it's no surprise that London consistently ranks alongside New York as the greatest city in the world. So I know it's always difficult to be optimistic about the future, but there is potential in this city. Don't give up on London. If you love it, fight for it. It may not be the same city that we knew, but there still is hope for the city, particularly if we get a national government and a mayor intent on changing what has happened to us. London is not perfect, far from it, but that doesn't matter because perfection is not the standard for greatness. Never forget, this is the city of Dickens and Orwell and Wilde. This is the city that gave birth to the English language as we know it, from Chaucer's Pilgrims trudging to Canterbury from Southwark, Shakespeare scribbling away in the shadow of the globe. It's the home of the very first modern professional police force. It's home to the first underground railways. It was the first city to have gaslight, the first city to have electricity, and it was the first city since ancient Rome to reach 1 million people. London reminds us that cities can be noble and that urban life need not be reduced to the simple mere hustle and stressful bustle. It can offer so much more. To misquote the 18th century poet William Cowper, London, with all thy faults, I love thee still. And I wish you all a very enjoyable and thought-provoking conference. I'm looking forward to hearing all of the other speakers, and it's a great privilege of mine now to be able to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Alka Segal-Cuthbert, who will be talking about our parents and schools singing from the same hymn sheet. Thank you so much.
Our mission at the New Culture Forum is and always has been to defend and celebrate Britain's history, culture and its people, and indeed Western civilization, at a time when both are under sustained attack. We have grown from small beginnings to become the country's most influential right-leaning cultural think tank. Our content is watched and read by some of Britain's most influential political figures. But now, we need your help. If you believe in what we do, then please do become a member. For as little as £4 a month, you can make a vital contribution to what we do. As a member of the NCF family, you will help ensure that we can continue to produce quality content online, such as our 3 weekly programs, Whittle, which is our flagship interview show, Newspeak, our panel discussion show, and Deprogrammed, which is targeted at Britain's youth. As you probably know, in addition, we produce important documentaries, such as our critically acclaimed 6-part series, The West, a stunning celebration of the history and genius of Western civilization, and our ongoing documentary series, Heresies, with hard-hitting episodes tackling subjects such as immigration, gender ideology, and BBC bias. But the New Culture Forum is much more than a YouTube channel. We don't just complain about Britain as it is, we provide real solutions and clear policies on how we can push back against the madness and restore sanity to this nation. Our presenters are now highly sought after and have become familiar faces across the media. Our prestigious annual Smith Lecture and our regional and indeed national conferences have attracted world-class speakers. Perhaps most importantly, we are the only organisation on the right of politics that has launched a national movement without actually being a political party. And uniquely, through our NCF Locals programme, we've established some 30 active branches in towns and cities right across the nation, from Edinburgh to Exeter, and with many more on the way. We're very proud of what we've achieved, and our members have made it possible. In return, our members receive access to exclusive content, invitations to private events, free or discounted tickets to our conferences and lectures, free copies of our books, and much more. I very much hope that you'll join us too by clicking the link in the description or going to our website, newcultureforum.org.uk. Now is the time that we need your help. Thank you.